Watches and Wonders 2025 has come to a close. Earlier this week, I made a video where I talked about a few of the releases that I thought were interesting or special. Today, we are doing part 2. I have a list of watches to go through, so without further ado, let's take a look at some of the releases from Watches and Wonders 2025. So getting right into it, the first watch that I want to talk about is a release from JLC. They came out with a beautiful version of the Reverso. This could be one of the best Reversos that I have seen in a long time. It's very simple, but it is very beautiful. It's in full pink gold. They're putting a pink gold case, a pink gold dial, which gets a very beautiful matte finish on it, and then a pink gold bracelet. The bracelet on here is a mesh bracelet that looks like a piece of jewelry. It's very expensive though. This watch comes in at $41,300. So a very, very expensive watch. But I have to say, this is a beautiful watch. And I wonder if they'll be making this bracelet for stainless steel versions. I think it would look really good on a stainless steel version as well. Or maybe there's a company out there that's watching and they decide to make a mesh bracelet that fits perfectly against a Reverso case. That would be a really cool idea. I went through most of the releases for Rolex in the previous video. However, they did release yet another watch with a stone dial. And this is a very interesting tiger iron dial. I've actually never heard of this compound, but it's a compound of tiger's eye, red jasper, and black hematite. It's a natural stone, it's naturally occurring, and they put this in a full gold or root beer version of the GMT Master 2. So this is a full gold watch. It looks beautiful and it gets a very beautiful dial. Again, the theme here, very expensive as well, over $49,000 for this watch. I think this is kind of to be expected. However, this dial puts it in a special Rolex range. I would imagine this will be very, very hard to get. I think a lot of people will like this. Some people will absolutely hate it, and I can see why. It's a very polarizing look. It's a very interesting look, but definitely very polarizing. Is it me, or are all watches starting to look the same? Sartori Billard and Studio Underdog teamed up on a watch with a small seconds. It's using a Le Jouperet movement. It's the movement that they use in their more higher end watches. I think it's the 7380. It's a hand wound movement that you could find in other watches. They say it's proprietary to them, but there are other brands that use it. Ralph Lauren is one of those brands. I've actually made a video about that watch, and I actually mentioned that Sartori Billard also used that movement. It's a very nice movement. It's hand wound. It looks great. But the price on this watch, again, is a little bit crazy. This is a sunflower watch, so you're getting a darker center. It's almost like a brownish black color, and then the outer portion is a sunflower color. There's a sunflower pattern. It's a full guilloche dial, and you're getting that movement, of course, like I mentioned before. $14,000 is the price on this, and it is limited to 10 pieces. It does look like every other watch that has been released by every other brand that has been doing these two-tone dials that get guilloche patterns. A lot of people were comparing this to a Fleming, which looks very, very similar to this watch. I'm not saying they copied this design, but eventually when you come out with so many watches in so many different colors, like Sartori Billard do, eventually it's going to look like another watch. That's just the way it is, but $14,000 is pretty expensive considering the components that go into the watch. It's not that expensive of a movement. Speaking of expensive watches, IWC released what I think is one of the cooler watches that they released this year. I really do love this watch so much that I actually own a version of this watch. It is a new IWC Pilot's Watch Performance Chronograph Perpetual Calendar Digital Date and Month. This is costing $85,000. It is very expensive, but you do get a digital display for the date and the month and the leap year. It's also a chronograph. I'm not sure if this is a flyback chronograph. I couldn't find any information on that. It's in ceratanium, which is their proprietary ceramic titanium, and I believe ceramic as well. It's a great looking watch on a bracelet, which is a little bit different. They haven't done that before, and it's 43 millimeters. It's actually a downsized version because usually this movement is usually found in much larger watches because it is a large movement. The version that I have is a flyback chronograph, and it gets 120 meters of water resistance. I think this gets 100 meters of water resistance, and it gets 68 hours of power reserve. That's basically the exact same movement that mine has, because it also has a 68-hour power reserve. The watch that I have is the Ingenieur version, which I absolutely love, in titanium, and I paid way less than $85,000. And that just goes to show you that if you like this watch, just wait a couple of years and you'll pay a fraction of what they're actually asking for it. One of my other favorite releases that I saw throughout all of Watches and Wonders 2025 is a Chopard. And actually, not a huge fan of the Alpine Eagle, but I really love the look of this watch and I love the movement. It's expensive, but I think this watch actually does warrant the very high price tag because it's a pretty special watch. It's the Alpine Eagle 41 SL Cadence 8HF. HF means that it's a high frequency, and that is an 8 hertz movement. So this is beating at 57,600 vibrations per hour. So it is a very smooth sweep seconds. It's a beautiful movement, a beautiful case. That falcon eye dial, which looks beautiful, radiates out from the center. But what they did here is that they put it in titanium. It's a coated titanium, I believe, because it's a very gray color. 100 meters of water resistance. Of course, it's COSC certified and all of that good stuff. But the tones here is what I like about this watch, and the fact that it gets a really special movement. I think it looks great. It does only come on a strap right now. I'm not sure if they'll ever put this on a bracelet. I think this would look really cool on a bracelet. The price is $25,000, so definitely not a cheap watch. But again, if you like this watch, you just wait a little while, and then on the secondary market, these will be better priced. But all things considered, I think this is a very cool watch, even at that $25,000 price point, which I know is very expensive. One of the more affordable releases that we got to see from Watches and Wonders was from Nomos and the introduction of their Club Sport World Timer. And this is actually a pretty good looking watch. I think, in my opinion, I've never been a big fan of the Club Sport case or bracelet, but I do like the dials that they have put on these. So it does make the Club Sport look a little bit better, in my opinion. But like I said, never been my favorite watch. It's just sort of a plain looking watch, which I've never been a huge fan of. But this World Time function is awesome. It gets a button that actually controls that hour hand, and you have a sub dial, which is 24 hours. It looks really good. And they're putting these in a bunch of different colors. So I really do like the dials. Not a huge fan of the case, but these are all under $5,000. So they're coming in at $4,720, which is a very good price. And of course, you're getting their in-house caliber. It's really nicely decorated, and you can see that movement from the back. I don't like the case, but I do like the dial and definitely the movement. So back to the absurd pricing. Cartier came out with 2 watches that are jump hour watches that look beautiful. I really love the look of these watches. They've made watches like this in the past. In fact, I believe this might be a reissue of a limited edition that they did in the recent past. It's not that old, but this is a very nicely laid out watch. This is something that you would have seen in a vintage watch from maybe the 1920s or the 1930s. It has a jump hour and then a dragging minutes. So that dragging minutes is in a little window that looks like a smile, and then you have obviously a small window that shows the hours. These are going to be hard to read because even vintage versions of these, they were always hard to read. Not really easy to read at a glance because those windows are so small. And these are not very big watches. You're not getting a lot of real estate to display the time, and they are limited by the size of the watch. They're making 2 different versions, one in gold, I believe it is in pink gold, and then one in platinum. The pink gold is just under $50,000. The platinum is just around $60,000. So it's just what people want. And when I mean people who are obsessed with Cartier and want to have something that is very, very unique, like the Crash. People are paying ridiculous amounts of money for that watch. I don't particularly think it's worth that money either, but there you go. People pay this money. That's the reason why they could charge this money. This pricing really doesn't make sense when you think about it, but in Cartier's world, it kind of does, so they do it. And they can, because people will buy them. The next watch on this list really caught my eye because it's from Ulysse Nardin, and they came out with a watch that is a world's first. It's actually the world's lightest dive watch that's mechanical, and it's a fully skeletonized dive watch that uses titanium and a bunch of different materials like carbon and other composites to make a watch that weighs 52 grams. This is a dive watch that gets 200 meters of water resistance. It looks really good because you're getting that skeletonized movement, and they've actually used titanium for the bridges, so lots of technology going into this watch. It's very expensive. Again, you can see a theme here. You do get a rotating bezel and all that, so it's a true dive watch that you could actually use for diving, except for the fact that it's not going to be all that legible because it is a skeletonized dive watch, so it's kind of a catch-22, but it's also very expensive. $38,000 in change. So another very expensive watch. It's way more expensive than their other skeletonized watches, but I guess a lot of technology and a lot of R&D goes into something like this, and they wanted to make something that was very light. They achieved that, and I have to say, I think it's a really good looking watch. It's around 44 millimeters. They're still making quite large watches, and I kind of like that. This is a dive watch. It should be on the larger side, and it gets a lot of special components. So the price is high, but to develop something like this, I would imagine is very difficult. The last watch on this list is from a brand that I really love. It's Singer Reimagined. If you're not familiar with the brand, they restore Porsches, basically resto mod, and completely overhaul them into something completely different, and they charge a lot of money for their cars. They decided to come out with a watch, and they came out with some pretty amazing watches, some pretty amazing chronographs when they first hit the scene, and they've been doing that for quite some time. They use very high-end movements, very high-end components. However, this watch is a little bit cheaper than what they have released in the past. This is an $18,000 watch that is using a vintage movement inside that is completely overhauled. So kind of what they do. They've taken an old movement and completely overhauled it, and they're putting it into a new watch. This is a Valjoux 236. It's a really good looking movement, and like I said, they are overhauling it. They're putting a lot of work into it. And this is a bi-compact chronograph, much more traditional looking than their previous watches, and they are charging $18,000 for this watch. Very expensive, again, but considering it's a Singer, I guess you could justify that price tag. They do sell for a discount on the secondary market now. They usually, in the past, had sold for very good prices on the secondary market. Now I have seen that prices on Singer watches have come down as everything else has come down. So maybe these eventually will sell for a good price. I have no idea. Limited production on these to 100 per year. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. I think there was a theme this year at Watches and Wonders. Everything was really expensive. Lots of gold watches that cost well over what they actually should cost. Like that Cartier costing almost $50,000 for a very small gold watch that has a jump hour. And the Rolex and all the other watches that I mentioned, they're all very, very expensive in the $40,000 plus range. And it's the theme that I'm seeing here. And I'm not sure how they're going to be affected price-wise, the import duties that are now going to be imposed on imports coming into the United States for Swiss products like Swiss watches. I'm not sure if people are prepared to be paying 31% on top of a $40,000 watch, not realizing that you're not paying $40,000 for that watch, you're actually paying $50,000+ for that watch because of tariffs. I'm not sure how that's going to affect the industry in general. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. Lots going on here, lots of expensive watches. Really, Nomos, the cheapest watch on this list, is $5,000. Everything else was in the tens of thousands of dollars. Same thing for the last video. It's a basic theme throughout Watches and Wonders. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. Please also don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It's super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you for logging on. Thank you for watching this video. I will catch you guys in the next video.